Welcome to the Rich and Purpose Transform Childhood Trauma Summit. Today we're here with Dr. Judith Belton, a nationally recognized trauma strategist and creator of Integris Therapeutic Art, a groundbreaking approach that blends neuroscience, visual insight, and identity restoration. With over 3 decades in the field, she brings both scholarly depth and lived experience, helping individuals and communities heal from trauma with clarity, compassion, and empowerment. Welcome, Dr. Judith.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jamie, for having me today. And I send back warm welcomes to you.
Well, I thank you because we're going to have 2 days with you. But first, I would like to have you, Dr. Judith, just tell the audience a little bit about how you got so passionate about helping people overcome trauma.
Mhm. Well, you mentioned that lived experience. I've been on the receiving end of racial trauma, and I have been on the receiving end of workplace trauma. And when you realize as you're recovering from your own traumas that you're not alone and that there are not a lot of safe spaces, even places that claim to be trauma informed can actually be the most traumatizing. It makes you want to stand up and speak on behalf of the people that don't understand the long-term impacts of trauma, mentally, physically, emotionally, financially. Um, we have to do more. We're talking about trauma more, but it's still being spoken about like that thing that came out of the closet. And if we talk about it enough, we can put it back into the closet and not really have to address it. But now more than ever, we've experienced these global traumas, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. We're seeing things happen in schools, in mass shootings, in college campuses, increases in domestic violence. We've got to talk about trauma. It's no longer an isolated incidents here and there, which it never really was. But it stems and drives and pushes me to support those that don't have a voice or believe they don't have a voice or think that there's something wrong with them and it's not.
Well, you're so right because I read 80% of the people have trauma. Sometimes I guess they call it the big T and the little t trauma, but it's still trauma. And until just the last couple of years, you're right. No, you didn't really hear about trauma. And then when you're working and like overworking, right? Here we think we're doing great. And then people are saying, why is this guy doing, or is going doing over and above when not even the bosses expected us to do what we were doing. And then we would take our trauma and say, oh, why don't they appreciate how hard I work? Right? So it becomes a conflict. And this is what kind of gets me is that we think we're doing right because we developed our systems to stay safe in our childhood. And
Yes.
then we step out into the world and what we needed to feel safe in our childhood, we don't need it at the moment. For like leaders,
Right.
we can't be a people pleaser and a leader at the same time.
Yes.
So so we limit ourselves, right? And until we learn what's happening and get people like yourself to create these programs and to guide us to a real world and how we can function in it, then we're just kind of in combat with the world compared to what we learned as children.
All of those are responses. You know, we have to step back first and understand that trauma is subjective because what's traumatic to me may not be traumatic to another person who's experienced the same situation. So that's also a challenge in defining trauma and how to support trauma survivors. We are as we think is something that I a quote that I had came across, and I started to think, I am how I'm thinking. Trauma survivors sometimes think it's them that caused the trauma, but in reality, it wasn't. But you're getting and you're infusing and you're recurring that message. It's something about me that made me deserve this trauma, especially when people are telling you, I'm doing this for your own good. Make that make sense? It's not going to happen.
Right. Well, like I said, we're fortunate we're going to have you here over the next 2 days. We're going to explore what's happening inside our bodies when we're overwhelmed and how ancient wisdom and modern science come together to help us navigate it with strength, clarity, and emotional steadiness. And that makes me excited that I can understand why some of these things happen with me and what you just explained to us, Dr. Judith, that it's going to get clarity in my life, and it's going to just help everybody. So I'm excited that you're going to be explaining this stuff to us. And in day one, you're going to help us understand the storm, why so many of us feel dysregulated, what's actually happening in the nervous system, and how Stoicism offers an internal compass in moments of stress, fear, and emotional reactivity. So that's a lot for one day. So I know that you're going to come through. Day two will show us the integration, how these ideas that you've developed to come together in real life with practical tools, stories, and everyday applications that help us become steady, grounded, unshakable, even under pressure. And that is a dream, right?
That
Becoming
sounds like a lot.
becoming steady even under pressure.
Yes.
So our theme of the day is understanding the storm. And so the first question I want to ask you, Dr. Judith, is so many people today feel overwhelmed and pulled in so many directions. When you think about emotional steadiness in modern life, what stands out the most?
We're living in a time where everything is on hyperspeed. I can push a button and I can get research from the last 60 years in milliseconds. The speed of doing things, because I have that information, I should be able to do something with it immediately. We have artificial intelligence that makes things that used to take me all day to do can be done by setting up a chat bot. It puts, though, an emotional weight on us because those demands. Okay, now, step one, step two, step three. And my nervous system is never slowing down because it's not only made me be able to do more, but now I'm expected to do more. And the only way that I'm going to reach that level of expected to do more as if my nervous system says, okay, let's gear up. And then I'm able to do this steady dose of internal noise. I've got this thought, I got that thought, I got to do this, I got to do laundry, I got 20 clients, and it's all the time. But when we're running at that high level, we can become tense, irritable, feel on edge, fit, or that other side of it where we checked out altogether and just like, I don't know where to start. Here's an example that I use with my clients when I'm trying to explain what that internal noise is. Mr. Jamie, do you like music?
Yeah, I love music.
Do you have a variety of music that you like?
I really listen to some kind of spiritual music, and then also I like to listen to things like that encourage me as well.
Okay. So in and of itself, music is harmless. It soothes us. It can put us in a really great place. So imagine you're going into a room and you see five record players or five radios lined up, right? Harmless. They play music, right? Yeah.
Wow.
All of a sudden, somebody flips the switch and all five of those radios come on at one time. They're all loud and they're all playing different things, but one of them is playing your favorite song. But you cannot tell which one it is because there's so much going on right where you're standing. That's what our internal noise is like. Those five radios playing all at once, playing different things, and we're just trying to keep up with the words on one, and then we're listening to the other one, and you see how it pulls somebody in different directions. And when we're not able to differentiate these five songs, we look at it as a personal failure. I must be weak. I can't do what I used to do, even though we really never could do it, but we thought we were doing it. But that lack of being able to do it, it's a physiological response. Our culture doesn't let us pause. It's not a failure, it's not a weakness. Our bodies were not designed to do all of that at that level all the time. It's not possible. And then we begin to get those lovely internal messages about, I'm not smart. I can't keep up. I'm not perfect. I'm missing out on something. Or I've got to pretend like I've got it all together from 9 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock in the evening when I'm off work. And then I go, shh, and I just crash. We can't navigate that. You weren't able to pick out your favorite song amongst those five radios. Was that because you were not competent? No. It was because our system was not designed for overwhelm all the time. That parasympathetic nervous system gets activated when we need it. It kept many of us trauma survivors alive and here today to talk about our journeys. But it's not designed to live at that level all the time. Why can't I calm down? What's wrong with me? You can't make clear decisions with those five radios going all the time. It's not possible.
Sometimes we don't even realize that the one word overwhelm can make us overwhelmed.
Mhm.
And so then all of a sudden you're right that I start thinking, well, I get distracted. I shouldn't be distracted. And I need to focus. I need to focus. I need to do this. And then, oh, I've got this going on or I got that going on, and this person's expecting me to have this, and it just continues to go and go and go until you realize or to you think, it's not to realize, but we think to ourselves, why am I like this?
Mhm. And it's our body's giving us information. It's not a fault. It's not a flaw. It's not a weakness. It's not a failure. Our inabilities to sustain that pressure, that cycle. Our bodies are like, I can't focus on that. I can't do this. But we then begin to internalize the messages of failure. Well, why can't I do it? We're not supposed to. But our culture tells us plow through and that it's okay for us to live with elevated cortisol levels, which is not. Survival mode is essential to humanity. That looks different for every one of us. I do a lot of work with first responders and veterans in the military. Complete the mission, solve the problem. And that's their lives for many of them for 20, 30 years. So when you operate from, I have to complete the mission at all costs, your body tells you, I'm with you to complete the mission at all cost. And then they're looking up at how did I get in the hospital? Because I'm here for exhaustion. Personal experience with that several times because I was doing. I had to do the darn thing. I had to keep it up. I had to handle this, handle that. Grad school, doctoral program, dissertation, children, husband, work full time. And I look back now and I wonder, how are you so mean to your poor nervous system asking it to do all of that? I'm not asking the questions now, what was wrong with me? I'm gentle with myself. I'm more compassionate with myself because I understand I had trained my nervous system to get me through, but that's not what it was supposed to be trained to do.
I mean, if you look at back even 100 years, but 1,000 years, and everything kind of happens right intergenerational. And can you imagine going back 1,000 years and grabbing somebody and say, "Come and do what we do today"? They would think, "No, thank you." Right? Not even do I not want to learn it. I don't want to have anything to do with it.
That's right. That's right. It's a hands off. So when you think about the origin of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it was done because he saw an indigenous people didn't have modern technology or industrialization, but they had peace, they had calm, they were happy, their needs were met. With each generation, we develop a new set of needs. Now, it's funny when you say, go back and grab somebody from centuries ago and tell them, come over here and do what we did. Think about that in reverse. You send some of the adolescents I work with back 100 years with no cell phone. They don't know how to function. You take away social media, it's like, you want me to talk to people? Really? Is that what you expect me to do? Because their nervous systems, again, are being conditioned at that fast pace. And it wouldn't be a meeting of the minds. But the challenge is each one would start to question themselves. Well, why can't I slow down like they do? And then the other person would, well, why can't I speed up like they do? It wasn't a requirement. Culture, expectations, they were very different. Now, I think you and I, Mr. Jamie, could go back 100 years and probably get some rest and then decide if we were going to come back here or not, because we know with doing our own work, we have to take that time to question, am I being kind to myself?
And peace, right? Having peace in our life is so important. And it seems like society today doesn't encourage you to have peace, right? If you go home and you have a nice, peaceful home that you can stay with your family and go out, you're away from society and you become not expected to do that. But, you go and tell somebody, oh, I went home last night, I did this nice dinner with family, and did all this, and they're going to think, did you have time for that? Right? How did you have time for that? Help me have time for that, right? That I can enjoy my family and I can enjoy the things that I want to do.
Mhm. Yeah, it struck me, and I think that's where I started looking at the stoicism to help bridge that gap of not living in a sense of internal urgency. That I had to be, let me back up for a minute. Most people think stoicism is about not having emotions. It's really not. It's about looking at reality, not from my trauma survivor lens. I'm looking at reality. What's my stuff? What's somebody else's stuff? We trauma survivors sometimes conditioned ourselves, and our perpetrator has added to that thought. That's something wrong with me. It was something in me that caused them to act like that. It was something in me that caused them to treat me like that. I said I've been experienced with racial trauma. What was it about me other than the color of my skin that made me on the receiving end of that? I didn't have control over that. My color of my skin is my color of my skin, even though DNA wise, 15% Scandinavian folks. I've got the document to prove it. But that's not under my control. So if someone has a problem with the color of my skin, that's not mine to internalize. That's theirs to deal with. But for many trauma survivors, we believe I've got to see what's wrong with me. Stoicism allows me to slow down my nervous system. Is this mine or is this somebody else's? Okay, that's somebody else's. And most of the things in our world are out of our control. So Stoicism again helps me. Is this something I could do, deal with, fix, change? Or is it out of my control? Racial trauma is out of my control. I can't make someone see beyond the color of my skin and see me as human. Really smart, decent, funny type of chick, as a matter of fact. But they have to get past their stuff.
It's the intergenerational stuff that we deal with, right? We have intergenerational trauma, and then now society has intergenerational beliefs about people. And I'm so happy that we're overcoming a lot of that, especially I feel in the younger people. They connect with different races a lot better than we did 40 or 50 years ago. And I'm just going to say this, and then I'm going to move on to the next question. But when I lived in a little town in Missouri, at 6 o'clock on set, we never, it wasn't a town where we were, that we went to school with black people and white people were together. But on the weekends, we would have people come, the black people come into the town, but they were supposed to be out of town by 6 o'clock in the evening.
Sundown.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that, that's in my lifetime. I can't imagine, what it was like in the 1800s and stuff like that. But yeah, so but I'm just so happy that I'm here talking to you, and I'm very proud I'm talking to you because I know that you are going to give us all knowledge, despite all the intergenerational stuff that maybe goes through your mind. You're going to help everybody that hears this message. And so everybody's going to be thankful for you at this minute.
Thank you. That's all I want to do is help people reclaim access to themselves in a way that feels both compassionate and empowering. And for trauma survivors, especially those in the early recovery phase, self-compassion might not be there. So you still have to figure out how to do the work while they're not loving themselves. Sometimes it's hard.
Well, sometimes that's why they don't take the next step to heal themselves because they don't think they deserve it. And I know I went through that type of stuff, that and it's just you have to learn to love yourself. And the one thing that I get in this whole trauma or this whole summit that thing is at the end of the day, Dr. Judith, everybody changes because they learn to love themselves and then they learn to love others. And love is just the key, right? God is love. The whole world should operate in love. And if we're not operating in love, then something's out of balance.
Mhm.
And until we get that in our lives, then we're gonna be out of balance.
Very much so.
What led do you see the connection between nervous system regulation and Stoic principles? Kind of like you were just kind of going over that with that a little bit, but maybe just give a little bit more clarity.
It is, and it's really a philosophical principle. I patterned, I guess, the connection after Dr. Kristen Neff, who is a guru in self-compassion. And she took some of her work and applied Buddhist principles of being and self-acceptance and self-love and self-compassion. So it's not a misnomer that we're backing science with philosophy and ways of living. So with Stoicism specifically, there are I focus on specific principles. One of them, first one, big one, we don't control external events. We only control our thoughts, our opinions, our decisions, and our behaviors. That's all we can control. When people say, you made me mad, I may have said something, then you responded angry, but I can't make you do anything. And this is pivotal for survivors of trauma. I can't control how somebody else wants to act, but I can control how I respond. And I can respond by not being around that person. That's what I have control of. Doesn't mean I'm not a good person. It doesn't mean I stand against my principles. It just means what I can control, I'm going to control to keep me safe. Can't worry about anybody else's stuff. There was a saying, not my monkeys, not my circus. It means I can't control somebody else's monkeys or somebody else's circus. So Stoicism really, really helped me understand and solidify mine, not mine, because control, not control. So those are two principles. I love the fact that the coaching is self-led by the clients. So Stoicism also, the principle is each one of us has been given all the inner resources we need to thrive. Self-led experience. Who knows you best? You do. That's why we do what we do the way we do it. We want our clients to be part of the process. We're not here to fix. We're here to tweak or fine tune some of the things that you responded to. Let's respond to them in a healthier way. So these are, again, general principles of living, nothing complicated. The Stoic golden rule, though, no man is an island. We human beings are wired for connection. We need one another, but we need one another in a healthy way. And that's not always the case with those of us that have survived traumatic experiences. But we don't have to do it alone. And so many times we think, oh, I've just got to plow through. I've got to make this happen. I've got to do this. Instead of let me lean in and get some help, especially if someone feels safe, they'll lean in all day. And last but not least, my other favorite one, what proof do you have? Fact check. If I'm thinking something negative about myself, I now ask myself, where you get that from? What? That's not true. I'm challenging my thoughts, but I'm doing it in a way that's not shaming. It doesn't belittle me. It's prove it. You say that you're not smart, prove it. You wrote a dissertation. That just means I can write a paper and can take a test, but it's like you're not. Check the facts with your thoughts. So that's why I integrated the Stoicism principles with the nervous understanding our nervous system, because it gives us that clearer path of looking at when I'm in survival mode, what are my emotions like? What are my behaviors, my decision makings, my reactions? What's my energy like? And my relationships with other people when I'm on that nervous system activation versus when I have calm clarity. My emotions, I'm calm. My reactions, I can come up with a decision with a clear mind and not be scattered all over the place. My energy, I'm able to direct it towards something that's going to solve my problem. And the relationships that I'm able to develop are healthy, nonviolent communication, supportive, nurturing, all because I had to see what's for me, what's mine, what I can control.
Well, that's so powerful because that's what we strive for, right? I mean, that's a healthy way to live. But so many times we as trauma survivors will have 70 people that says, Jamie, you did a great job. But that one person said, I don't really think you did a good job.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh, how do I make that one person like me? Right? And how do I make them see it? Not a, forget about you had 70 confirmations, right, that you did a good job. But one person said, oh, you didn't do a good job. So we go along and say, oh, let me see how I can make that one person like me.
Right. And that's not my job. I
Right.
don't have that control of whether that person likes me or not. And I just discounted 70 people that said, fantastic. But I heard the one that didn't. That's the one that's screaming. That's the one that's those 5 radios at one time. The other 70 weren't.
Well, and a lot of it is, I think, Dr. Judith, is that the confirmations that you did good are new to you. The confirmation that the one person that said you're not doing good was probably something that we heard in our childhood, and that is not new to us, and that's what we'll believe. So that's why this healing is just so important because we sometimes we don't realize that it's our thinking that is getting our nervous system and everything all out of whack.
Mhm.
It's not the fact that it becomes a wrong thing to do, right? And so we have to look at people like yourself to bring us to the point where we can think healthy thoughts and act like a healthy person. And until we do that, our nervous system, I feel, is just out of whack.
And it is, and that's why I use the therapeutic art to bypass our cognition because the thoughts are real to us, whether they're factual or not, they become very real. I use the Safe and Sound protocol, the integrated learning system in Rest and Restore with Unite Health, the polyvagal based activities in my practice. And that's part of the work before the work. Because in those processes, my clients are learning how to regulate that nervous system after we reset it. Because you have to first tell the nervous system, you're safe. Because if my body does not feel safe, even though cognitively I might know I'm in my house and the chance of somebody coming into my space uninvited is very small. But because I know in the past I could have been in a safe space and someone still made me be on the receiving end of a traumatic experience, my nervous system may not be able to tell the difference yet. I may have to reset it and restore it, then regulate it. So it's an entire program of that first phase, because that first phase is essential for me to then move into self-compassion work with my clients and having them learn to be, this is called the theory of neutrality, to be a compassionate observer to their lives without making judgment. Because those judgments, oh, you mispronounced the word, or ooh, you did this, you did that. And you can't see yourself as, yeah, I'm human. I mispronounce stuff all the time. And I laugh. I'm clumsy, I'm cute, clumsy, and quirky. And I'm okay with that. But there was a time when I have to be perfect. I have to sit up. I have to fully articulate my words because I had to be performing versus present.
I mean, I'll give you an example. Just this morning, I did a live that was going to telling about the speaker that was coming up today, and at the very end, I made a little mistake, and I'm like, oh my gosh, and I apologize. But then after I got off, I'm like, because it was a live, I'm like, I thought, well, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to tell everybody I'm a trauma survivor. I'm into perfectionism, so I'm doing my live over. But I didn't go there, right? I'm like, okay, I know they're going to accept it, and people are going to say, oh, he's human, right? He made a little mistake at the end, and it really gets people to like you even more, right? If I would have went back and then they would thought, see, he probably got a mask on half the time, right? And he's not he wanted to cover that mask, so he's coming out and explaining things. So I just you just get into these situations where accept yourself, accept the situation, and move on because vulnerability is, Brene Brown says, vulnerability is your superpower. So if you
Yes.
can become vulnerable, people will accept you and you can teach them things. That um, we're gonna have to have a 7 day course unless we keep doing here. So
I'll come back. You set it up and we
yeah.
we will definitely work it out.
Well, it's so interesting and so needed that sometimes I don't want to like, okay, let's because it it gives people the comfort and the feeling and really confidence in themselves that what I'm doing, sometimes what I believe is really harming me and not helping me. So that's why I'm not gonna run through it, but I'm just learning myself, and sometimes I get off track too. But
That's
um,
okay. We're human.
that's right, that's right. It says, for someone unfamiliar with nervous system work, what does regulation actually mean in everyday language?
Remember those 5 radios that I talked about?
Hmm.
Regulation for everyday people means those 5 radios are either not all at the same time, or they're on at a lower level where I can titrate and listen to what's playing on each one of them. When they're all up here at the highest decibel level possible, and I don't know about you, Mr. Jamie, but there are some songs that I like to listen to and the bass is thumping and I'm moving, and especially when you clean and you be like, yeah, in your element. But our nervous systems can't handle that. They have to be more here. So I have to turn off the radios. And for that means, okay, stepping back. What's mine? What's not mine? My nervous system's going to focus on what's mine. What's in my control? What's out of my control? Regulated nervous system, I can only function and pay attention to what's in my control. It's not easy 100% of the time. It's not level 100% of the time. Our nervous systems are not built like that. Nervous systems are a physiological response to what's happening around us. It's data. It's our way of telling us where I am in all of the radios.
Probably so many of us don't even, until now we're getting information, but we don't know why we're feeling that way because we really don't know about our nervous system, right? So, because we were taught for so many years it's in your mind, it's all in your mind. And so unless you can get it out of unless you can really understand that your body is really a bigger proportion of it than your mind, you have a hard time even moving forward because you're concentrating on the wrong thing.
But part of it is in my mind. But my body is speaking to my mind. But I don't hear it again unless I've done the work for nervous system regulation. I don't hear it when it's here in my body. By the time I hear it, it's up here and it's already taken a negative turn. My body is saying, hey, you're doing too much. Go sit down somewhere. By the time it gets here, yeah, I'm not doing enough. Why am I sitting down? There's other stuff that needs to be done. I got to do this. Body is like, if you don't sit down somewhere. So my body and I now talk to each other very differently. My nervous system is like, sit down, stop it, just sit down. And I do, because then that gives me the time to reflect. Okay, what am I doing? Where's the messaging coming from? Why is my nervous system all the way up here? And I realizing I need to sit down.
Well, that's just wonderful training, right? I mean, it's wonderful that we get to hear those types of things because, and again, you'll hear me say a lot of Zig Ziglar quotes, but really, unless you get new information, you're going to keep making the same decisions.
Yep.
And you're giving us information to say, okay, sit down, let your nervous system catch up, or your mind catch up with your nervous system, and act like the person that really kind of God created you to be, this person that is function, and you're not functioning like you were when you were 7 years old and in a different whole situation.
Right. Right. Because for many trauma survivors, the feeling of helplessness is one that goes along with an activated nervous system. At 7, yes, I might have been helpless. At 10, I might have been helpless. But at slightly seasoned as I am now, I'm not helpless. But that doesn't mean that I'll never think that I'm helpless again. This work does not mean I will never think that way again. This work means I have the skills and strategies. So when I start to think like that again, I'm not thinking like that for decades. I may be thinking about that for a couple of minutes and you're like, okay, well, what do I need to sit and look at?
That's just, I think, wonderful news. And it's this one, I think, kind of the follow up. Why does dysregulation show up so often in high achieving or high performing adults? And how does it impact decision making, relationships, or identity? Well, it's just a perfect follow up question.
Well, because in my work that I work with the first responders, their nervous systems are activating to solve problems. So even though if you break that down theoretically, the bell rings, right? Everybody's throwing on their fire jackets, their boots, grabbing the helmets. Old school, you used to slide down the pole. Yes, I've done that because my uncles were firemen and I loved it and it was fun, but I know that has a different purpose. But their nervous systems, we've got to save people. So theoretically, that activation for them is great because of what they're doing, the nature of their work. The challenge is their nervous system stays in that ready mode. And they are trained, first responders, military, veterans, even your high pressure leaders are trained to ignore tension. Don't worry about stressful situations. No threats to your body. You know what to do. Keep it moving at all costs. But understanding how your nervous system really reacts, we shouldn't view that as a luxury. We should really review that as a requirement because it puts them in a constant state of being on the ready. And that system becomes overloaded. And when their systems become overloaded, then they have to learn how we can support it to tone back down and activate when needed, but not always stay at that level. You're also talking about cultures that are not always warm and fuzzy about people getting help because the standard is you are able to do the job at whatever cost. You need to push all that aside. You need to push it down. You need to put your uniform on. And you see how I'm increasing my voice and my pace? That's what goes on in the nervous system, even when there's not a problem to solve, even when there's not a mission, when there's not a fire, when they're not going to get going to a car accident and getting an injury taken care of and then on to other health care. But their lives are focused that 75, 80% of the day. And that 20%, insomnia, substance use disorders, some domestic violence, using other coping mechanisms because they're trying to regulate some part of their day because the majority of it is activated.
And so many of us, right, we'll talk about a fireman, right? That they have 3 days, they work 3 days and then they get 4 days off. And you're like, I just would love to have that job, right? That I can just work 3 days and then I can have 4 days off. But unless they deregulate their system, who knows what that person would end up growing into to doing.
Mhm.
Even though they're nice, a healthy mental person, if you keep them on there for 30 days, or and don't give them the time off, they would have an adverse reactions probably to society, right?
Mhm.
Than more so than themselves.
Yeah. Because think about it, they catalog pressure. I can handle this. I've been trained to respond to this, complete the mission. But then when they get home, they're still in complete the mission state. And then you have a little child, mommy, daddy, can I? And then you have a very short response, and the child is looking at you like, I just asked if I could have some ice cream. I didn't know it was that serious.
Right.
They don't necessarily put their activated state together with their response to the child because they're so accustomed to functioning at that level.
Well, Dr. Judith, I'm going to ask you one more question so that we can get back on track a little bit here. But it says, how does stoicism help us interrupt reactivity and respond with more agency instead of getting swept up in the storm?
And that's where it gets me. It struck me that the nervous system was telling one story and my mind was telling another. So my nervous system was saying, we're okay, we're safe. Mine is, no, we're not safe. And it was because of Stoicism that it bridged that gap. It allowed me to access a place in myself that felt clear. Like, why is my nervous system telling me that I'm safe, but my mind isn't? What's going on? Why the disconnect? So with the Stoicism principles, I was able to fact check. Am I safe? I'm in my house. My doors are locked. Anybody comes up in here, I don't think they want to get anything thrown at them. Okay. So I fact check. Nervous system saying I'm safe. Mind saying no. What's mine? What's going on that you're feeling uneasy? Because sometimes we trauma survivors forget that we are safe, that we are not helpless, and that I actually have the control of the situation because the situation that I was reacting to in my mind was very different from the situation that my body was feeling. My body knew I was safe, but my mind didn't think that I was safe. So it's Stoicism has helped me and it helps my clients not be in that survival mode all the time and being able to really step back and say, hmm, not my circus, not my monkeys. I'm not getting in that.
Well, Dr. Judith, I thank you so much for this day one of this, that we understand what's happening to us. And we can, once you understand it, then you can make different decisions, which is what you're going to teach us tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Is how to take the information that you've given us and use it in our real life situations. So I want to encourage our audience to make sure that you tune in tomorrow, because Dr. Judith is going to open, I think, a new way of thinking in your life, that and shows you how to then take that new thinking and use it in your daily lives. So thank you, Dr. Judith, again. I look forward to tomorrow and learning more from you about what we can actually do to integrate it into our lives. And we will see everyone tomorrow. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.